I'm Hugh Massie, the chairman and founder of DNA Behaviour International, and today I'm delighted to host Julie Johnson for another one of our identity conversations. And this is something that I love doing, to be able to connect with other people at something that's very core to them, which is their identity. And this is part of me even growing in my identity. And I know that, Julie, with all the work that you do with XY communication, it is all about building connection and helping people with communication success. So, Julie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Hugh. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Julie, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your life and career background and how you got to being a connections builder for people, helping people build, greater connection. Because I know this is very deep in your heart, and helping people find their authentic voice, building trust with others is important. And I think we all know in business these days, communication and relationships is key to everything. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your life journey to the place today that we're at?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And the SEO search engines are going to be very happy with everything that you just said. So that was awesome. Thank you. So I started my career in 1996 with Smith Barney. We were very lucky to grow a wonderful practice, achieved approximately $1 billion in assets under management in about 10 years. I had wonderful relationships with our clients, and everything felt pretty good, except the big disconnect that I had throughout my time as an advisor, Hugh, was there was a complete and total disconnection between my desire to build these strong and very trusting relationships and very deep relationships with clients. And because that was not seen as the best use of my time, the most efficient use of my time, right? It was sales, it was business, it was, this is business, it's not personal. One of my partners actually said that to me on a regular basis. And what was really, really hard was, based on that and a number of other things that were going on, unfortunately, my personal well-being, both physical and mental, and my identity, who I was, who I wanted to be as an advisor, just slowly but surely was diminished. And I let it happen. There's a number of reasons why. And I joke a little bit, my Facebook life, the social media identity was, we were living large. We were winning Barron's Awards, and I was speaking at conferences, and, we were doing really, really well. But inside, because there was such a disconnection in who I was as a human being and how I was made to feel on a regular basis, and the fact that I didn't have very good boundaries at that point in my life, my inside slowly but surely just fell apart. So I was very much hollow. And I would reach out to management, I would reach out to peers, and no one really knew how to talk to me, or to help me get through or be stronger or what have you. So unfortunately, I won't bore you with all the details of our practice. My senior manager was supposed to retire in 2008. Needless to say, that didn't happen. And I was the heir apparent of our practice, but we both agreed that it didn't make sense for him to go away, that year, for obvious reasons. But then, unfortunately, between a lot of stress that I'd been experiencing for years, and then the added stress, right? I started experiencing organ failure. So in 2010, I received a pacemaker, thinking hopefully that was going to fix everything. Unfortunately, it did not. So much to, I basically left proverbially kicking and screaming, because my doctors, I went to Mayo, NIH, they called me a conundrum.
Yeah.
which is not, we're science people, we're math people, right? That's not what you want to hear from your doctors. You want solutions. Here's what's wrong and here's how we're going to fix it. I didn't get that. So in 2010, I ended up having to go out on disability, let all my licenses go. And then a couple years later, the day that changed my life, and I'll be very real and transparent. I went Hugh, into one, probably the deepest depression, certainly that I had ever experienced. And I had 2 young kids at the time. It was bad. It was dark times. But slowly but surely, I started digging my way out with the support of friends and family. And then my brother took me to go see Brene Brown. I know you know who she is. Anyone listening to this who doesn't know who she is, please look her up. She is amazing. She talks all about vulnerability and worthiness. And these were all things, at this point in my life, Hugh, I felt like a failure. I felt like I was broken. And how was I going to get back? Once I realized I was going to survive, thank God, how was I going to get back? So I had the opportunity to actually meet Brene and speak with her for a bit. And she invited me to come and work with her team, which was absolutely incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, it was life altering for obvious reasons. Got certified in all of her programs as, facilitator. And they were the ones who said, Julie, you've got to go back into the financial industry, not as an advisor, but as a coach, facilitator, speaker, etc. Because for so many people still to this day, as you very well know, Hugh, are very alone in our massive industry, right? And they are not living their most authentic, confident lives as advisors, as managers, as, what have you, because they're not sure how to get there, how to go there. They're not comfortable, maybe, bucking the trend, saying, I don't want to do it the way we've been doing it for decades, because that doesn't feel right to me. That doesn't sync up with the person that I am. So I decided, through a lot of research and a lot of support, my niche became generations. This is 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
And as you very well know, millennials were becoming larger, and I try to steer clear of titles and assumptions, but these statistics really help us to get at least a sense of who, to some degree, some of these people are, and therefore develop trusting relationships through asking questions and learning who they are, what their perspectives are, as opposed to simply looking at things from our perspectives. And so I built a program in 2018, which I called, it basically was focused on how do older advisors make sure that they're building very real and authentic relationships with the younger family members of existing clients because of the great wealth transfer, right? Depending upon whom you ask, 60 trillion, 70 trillion, what have you, there's a lot of money on the line that's being received by younger family members through inheritance. And a lot of older advisors don't know how to make those real connections. And so I started this program through good old Lunch and Learns, here in Denver. I born and raised in Denver, and was very lucky. It was received very well. Began my speaking career again. I was very honored to be invited to speak at many Barron's conferences and Forbes and other national conferences, as well as more regional conferences, and do a lot of coaching and facilitation from that. And again, it boils down to building authentic relationships, building trust, connection and communication, and looking at things from the other person's perspective as opposed to solely our own. We're all guilty of getting sort of stuck in our own way by looking at things, decisions with our clients, decisions with our team members, solely from our own perspective, not considering their perspective. And the tides are turning, right? So we must now become extremely and deeply in tune with the perspectives of women in the industry, which are different, perspectives of younger generations in the industry, which are different. And so that is where my focus lies, is in helping the dynamics of teams with different generations, succession planning, sitting with clients that are going through transferring their own wealth to their family, and sitting with them and being comfortable while they're going through their emotional situations. And so that was a very long answer to your question, but
well, it's a wonderful answer, Julie, and you unpacked a lot of things there, and I want to acknowledge your vulnerability in being honest.
Thank you.
About your journey. And I was shocked at the start of what you said about the fact that you were told that this business is not personal. Effectively, this business is not a relationship, which is just saying
it's crazy.
Go out there and hunt and kill the client, and as long as we get what we want, we don't really care. That's just so wrong.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I can see how that was the case in the old world, but it certainly doesn't it doesn't work today. And no wonder there is so much distrust in the financial services financial services industry at a broader level. Now, of course, not all advisors believe that or behave that way, but unfortunately, management of some firms drive it that way.
Yeah.
Still. But when I worked at Arthur Andersen many years ago, before I went into the wealth management space as an independent, with my own firm, and then DNA Behavior came out of that. But when I was at Arthur Andersen, I got to share in this. I got some of that, and okay, that's an accounting world. It's a bit different. But I was told too often that I cared too much about the client. Well, who's paying the bill? And this is the thing. And I went home extremely stressed, and at a point, and things were being said to me, and I thought, yeah, you know what? Okay, I'm male, but in a sense, there was bullying going on. I thought, yeah. You know what? Even though I'm good at this, there's a new life for me.
Yeah.
And you have to go and find it. And I think if I picked up on something that might be relevant thread to flow through here too and bake into this conversation, is in some ways you were being validated or validating yourself, because perhaps, in building your business there at Morgan Stanley to $1 billion under revenue, you're making a lot of money, and in a way and that becomes part of your life. You end up having a mortgage, you've got kids, all of those things, and it's hard to escape from the wealth trap or the debt trap, whatever it is for you. But inside, you're sort of dying because your values are being compromised. You're not doing anything wrong.
Exactly right.
But it comes in, and it crashes in on you. And I think this is where I've been talking a lot in recent times about the energy of money.
Yes.
And what it does to you stress-wise, then affecting every other part of your life. You shared your health story. Obviously, there's a mental part to that as well. Everything can go downhill, and this is part of it. But I think moving to the families, which is interesting that you're doing a lot of this work in the family units. The same problem sort of exists in there too, because the family might have money, and people are thinking, well, I have to do A, B, C, D because dad thinks so, or because we have a family identity, or in fact, I'm just used to having this distribution out of the trust fund.
Right.
And I better keep my mouth shut and play ball.
Yep.
And I want to keep on getting it. And, you know, my life's cushy because of it.
Exactly.
And therefore, they're not finding their authentic self. And then mum and pop think, well, we've earned all the money and built this up, and
should be our decision solely.
This is our
and
decision.
Don't ask for collaboration or, yeah.
Then not knowing what's the consequence of that decision on their children's life. And this is where I've been doing a lot of family dynamics work, slightly different to you, but I do believe the next generation needs to be understood.
Couldn't agree more.
They need to learn how to advocate for themselves.
Bingo.
Within the family unit, and have a bit of courage with that too. And, you know, the parents have got to learn to listen. So I think this is where, you know, in a way, it's like in a corporation. It's different.
Absolutely.
Family.
Well, right, which makes it
but
even more emotional, right? So you have to be even more comfortable with navigating the emotions and the conversations and everything. And if I'd love to interject, if I may.
Yeah, please.
There's the team, you know, it crosses over so many different levels or silos, if you will. The team dynamics, you know, when an older established advisor brings in a younger advisor, either because they need help because they're growing and they want to build, they realize they need to build that authentic relationship with the younger family members, and who better to do that in their mind than a younger advisor, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're similar in age, so of course they're going to just automatically get along. You know, it's never that easy, but so advisors often bring me in because a lot of time the senior advisor, and again, I'm making generalizations.
Yeah.
But often the senior advisor is like, okay, I've built and established this practice and I'm successful and I've done it this way. So why, you know, Mr. or Miss Junior Advisor, are you questioning me? Why aren't you just, you know, kind of doing what I'm asking you to do? Right. And that's how I'm 53. That's, you know, I did what I was told.
Yeah.
But this younger generation, and good for them, they speak up, they advocate for themselves. The challenge is sometimes that they don't necessarily do it in a way that's going to engage and receive positive listening from the older advisor. And so my job is to go in there and say, okay, you know, younger advisor, I love your ideas. I love your, you know, you're being proactive. You're being, you know, this is exactly why this older advisor brought you in. However, let's look and communicate these ideas with the older advisor in a vernacular, a cadence, a way that is going to engage them and connect with them. Same with clients, same with, you know, it's coming from our own authentic, confident self, but then putting the communication and in getting the engagement done via that other person's language, your target audience, you know, that person's language, what they care about, what their values are, their authentic selves. So it's learning is to step out of our own perspectives and respect and understand, do everything we can to understand that person's perspectives and what they care about. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's very good, Julie, and it's right. And I was, you know, when you were going through that, I was thinking before you actually said, I was thinking, yeah, the younger team members need to know how to bring this to their boss or the founder of the firm.
Yep.
In a way,
or the client, the older client.
Yeah, and they're the yes, and then their boss, and then secondarily to be able to sell it to the to the older client.
Absolutely.
Because if you can't get it right inside the firm and how the team's going to work and manage this client and which comes with it, build the relationship with that client, you're not going to get anywhere with the client.
Absolutely. And there's no trust there. because you're not
No,
understanding each other at all.
yeah, it's got to be absolutely seamless at every level between the senior partner, if you want to call it that, in the advisory firm, and the junior that's stepping in to do this, and ultimate trust.
Yes.
And if that doesn't happen, then one, you're not going to secure the client, or the older partner, the founding partner, will just be left serving mum and pop, and the kids are going to run away to somebody else when there's an inheritance event.
Absolutely.
And then there's the spouse sitting in there as well. And if it's a her, she's not likely to stick around either once there's a wealth transfer.
That's exactly right. Another thing, Hugh, I'm a statistics dork, because, you know, we're numbers people, so we need the facts to back it up. And there's so many different studies that support the fact that women, and also the younger generations, tend, and again, these are generalizations, but they tend to want deeper relationships, more authentic relationships. They want to feel comfortable being more emotional with their advisor and not feel awkward having those, you know, emotional conversations. I did a recent study in a number of presentations. Harvard and Wharton and Vanguard all did studies based on the advisor and client trust relationship, and it broke trust down into 3 parts. And it was, and I'm going to misquote 2 of them, I apologize, but it's, you know, it's the etiquette, the fiduciary, the rules, right? Then it's obviously industry knowledge.
Yeah.
And the third is emotional. And emotional, as far as the total trust factor, was responsible for greater than 53% of the total. So if you don't have their emotional engagement, and that's, again, it's our job to get more comfortable being more emotional, more vulnerable, more real with our clients and with each other, because
I think at
that's
the
what's
end of
going
it,
to help us be successful.
Yeah, I think if at the end of the day there is not emotional engagement, then the competence level of the advisor will be severely questioned at some point.
Totally agree.
And you know, even if the advisor is right at a technical level about a solution, if it's not heard, understood, appreciated, conveyed the right way, there'll be problems. And this is the same, you know, in medicine with surgeons and neurophysicians and whatnot. They can be the brightest person, done the best they can, but if their communication skills of themselves and their team is off base, you have got big problems.
Yeah. The one thing, I've worked with hundreds of advisors and individuals, managers, what have you. And one thing that I really love about the emerging investor, especially, they have really good BS sniffers.
Yeah.
They, you know, if you're not being authentic and real, and, you know, you're trying to build these relationships, but it doesn't connect, they're like, nah, no thanks.
Well, I think we're also in we're in a slightly more empowered world where they won't just respect somebody because they're 60 years old and got a whole lot of letters after their name.
Exactly.
They will question it. And so Julie, I had a question that came to my mind, which I think is, in my view, is part of the problem here. Have the senior advisors in these firms that you work with and that you've experienced, their preparedness to be open and vulnerable about themselves has got to be key here, and therefore, have they learned to have conversations about, you know, if you want to call it the strengths and struggles in their own life journey, things that have worked, not worked, you know, taking the veneer off? Because I believe you can't take a client somewhere, whether you're an advisor or a coach, and really we're talking about advisors being coaches here to a large degree, or a mentor. you can't take someone where you haven't been yourself.
Couldn't agree more. 100%. And
And do you give
so,
them that kind of training? In other words, part of your service is, okay, Mr. Advisor, you need to act like a family member here. And how have you engaged your 16, 18, 20-year-old, 30-year-old children in the conversations about, you know, their life, their needs, money, etc.?
spot on. Absolutely spot on. And many advisors that come to me are not comfortable with that yet, but they know they need to go there. And so we go through exercises like, you know, discovery questions. And
Yeah.
like you said, I first take them there. Them as the advisor, them as my initial client. And I've been it's been probably the most humbling compliment that I've received. I've been told that my superpower is I'm able to connect and build a very trusting relationship pretty quickly, which just makes me very, very happy. And it's something that I never, ever take for granted. I call it sort of a safe space or a judgment-free zone. And it's just enabling that person to sort of, you know, let their proverbial hair down and feel comfortable and confident talking about themselves, their own relationship with money. How did they grow up with money? You know, the all too common question of why did you become a financial advisor? That, you know, to serve people. Okay, that's great, but let's go deeper there. What do you really mean? And anyway, to your point, the advisor must figure out, not must, but if they want to be successful moving forward in this industry, well, then the ones that are going to really step up and step out are going to be the ones that are comfortable, or at least are willing to get comfortable, get out of their comfort zone to become more comfortable sitting with clients as they're experiencing emotions, sitting with themselves as they're experiencing emotions. So it's a process, right? It's truly breaking old habits and just changing. And anyway, we could talk about that for hours.
Yeah, I think I just want to unpack this a little bit more around your talents and passion. So you've used the word superpower, that, you know, helping people build trust and learn to have authentic conversations is part of your superpower. And I know from your own DNA discovery that being trusting is your highest, where your highest scores come out. So that's your main strength, if you want to, if you want to call it that. But how do you actually bring that into the conversation, to draw these people out? There's something that you're doing there that's actually building the trust to draw the advisor out, and then in a way transfer that some of that talent to them to do with the families, or with mum and pop in the family as well.
Absolutely. Um, the to generalize it, right? And it's never a one size fits all. It's also becoming good as you are at reading people, which, you know, some would say via Zoom, how the heck do you read people? Well, a lot happens in the face, right? And in the eye contact and whatnot. But I always say, when you're initially meeting somebody, you know, client, prospect, family member, what have you, treat it like you're meeting a new person for a cup of coffee. And like, you truly want to get to know who they are. Don't think about your business, your services, your
Yeah,
products. None of that matters, because you cannot provide your client with solutions until you know what their challenges are, right?
yeah,
Until you know what their pain points are. And they're not going to necessarily jump in and share all of that with you. They may not even know, you know, a lot of us, we don't know what we don't know. And so it's our job to guide us through those questions, through those conversations, tell our own life stories, to help them become comfortable and confident in speaking with us in again, a very safe, authentic way, and it's our job to do a lot more listening and a lot less talking. And again, active listening, there's that, cliche title, but it's very true. And repeating back, okay, this is what I'm hearing you say. Because again, as advisors, we can be often somewhat high ego people. And so we tend to jump to assumptions
Yeah.
as opposed to, again, asking questions and being open to and really listening to what the person is telling us. Um, and it's hard sometimes to stay present because as salespeople, we
And
always want to, we have the end thing in mind, but it's better to just not go there for at least, the first conversation.
yeah,
Sorry,
because the agenda, which is the sale, for many just pollutes the whole thing. And
totally agree.
that's all they're listening for. And that's what they've been somewhat trained to do.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we're really talking about listening beyond that.
Yep.
And do you feel when you say, let's say a question gets asked and you listening to the person, truly hearing them, is that all you're doing is hearing them? Or is it, when you say hearing, it's actually deeper there for you in terms of internal feelings? I've learned to get on top of your intuition, the 7 energy centers that you've got inside you that you've perhaps cleared out through your own journey, but
Yeah,
when the bells are ringing off, and this is it.
absolutely. I call it, and I work with clients. I'm like, okay, what are our spidey senses telling us? Right. And
Yeah.
it comes with experience. It comes with time. And it comes also, Hugh, as you very well know, we must figure out how to become more comfortable and confident in our own identities and what we bring to the relationship. Adam Grant uses an expression that I love, confident humility.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, we're not there to sell ourselves. I mean, we are, but we got to build the foundation of trust first. And so it's people I hate to say it, people sometimes are either inherently, more empathetic or more in touch with their own energy or are not. I'm not saying if they're not, they can't learn how to tap into that, because they absolutely can.
Yeah.
And it's our job to help them do that, right? But it's their job to be curious. It's their job to maybe get out of their own way and want to learn and want to grow and want to, understand more about other people, connect better with other people. And so I think there has to be a certain openness. And again, I often use the word curiosity for
Yeah.
us to be able to go there with them. Does that
No, you're
resonate
dead
with?
on. And you have, naturally you have a high level of openness.
Took me decades to get here. And
Well, I think it was
a
always there. It
lot
might
of
have been,
work.
it was always there
Late,
for
yeah.
you. In my view, it was there from early in life. And that's what the DNA natural behavior discovery would say. But it was shut down for 40 plus years of your life journey, whether that's at home, schooling, certainly the first 15 years or so in the financial services industry. It got shut off, but you were getting stressed because it wasn't allowed to come out and be freed and to express itself.
Right.
And that's, but you've gone past that now. So we just looked to the next, 60 years of what Julie can. So I joined the 120 club. So I'm sort of
nice.
I'm not halfway through yet, but I'm on my way to being halfway through. But
Perfect.
I think with things like empathy, that it's not, I'm opposite to you. It's not in my natural DNA to be naturally empathetic. Having this system and all the army of people I have around me, from coaches to whatever, has helped me at least move myself along the bar on it.
Yep.
And for certain situations it can work, but not everyone. But I also know that there are other times to bring that empathetic person to the room, to the table.
And it's reading the room, right? Reading
the
other person.
What I've realized is that I am, even though it doesn't always show to everybody out there, I'm extremely sensory. And, I've learned to work with that part. Then it's just a matter of managing the delivery.
Right.
But, we all need, we all need training on various aspects of it. But it's better if we start off with more your style. Is easier to work on it, but we've all got to do it. At the end of the day, if we're going to build relationships. But some of it also, I think, Julie, is for some people that they don't want necessarily soft communication, but they still want to be understood.
Right.
That's the key thing, is then to know, okay, today's not the day to talk about lifestyle stuff. Let's get to numbers.
Yeah.
And ask them questions about that, because that's what they need. It's a matter of then how do you adapt? So, these things.
And what questions to ask? Like, okay, I often encourage advisors send out the agenda ahead of time so that the client feels engaged and it's a collaborative effort and they know what to expect, and then they can add or make changes. And then the advisor knows, okay, this is what the client wants to talk about, or the family wants to talk about, and even that day, our emotions change on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, potentially. When you sit down with the client, or, you're joined screen to screen, what's going on for you today? Where are you at? How are you feeling? Just really kind of like you start a conversation with a friend or a family member. How are you today? What's going on?
And I think that's right. And I was going to, sorry, I cut you off a little bit. I was going to drill in there on a point here. It is about the questions, and it's not so much the content of the question. It's actually how it's asked. And, for some people, they'll ask questions that come across, it's judgmental, didactic. It can just outright be cutting, or if someone feels that, even though that may not have been the intention. But it seems to me that it is the questions that are absolutely vital in how they're asked. Yep.
Tone of voice is really important. Again, eye contact is really important. Utilizing even the cadence. So, again, these are generalizations, but when you're speaking with somebody older, maybe slow your cadence. When you're speaking with somebody younger, make your cadence faster. It's just little tools and things like that to pay attention to. But again, like you're saying, there's a lot you can read about a person from the shoulders up, how tense they're feeling, what's going on in their face. And it's, so it's our job to pay attention to those things. How fast they're talking, how engaged they seem. And then, the more we get to know them, the more we connect and can read their energy, to, use the energy term.
Yeah, I think in the connecting, it's also understanding when just outright they're not comfortable, they're balking.
Yes.
They don't want to give you an answer.
A great tool for that sometimes is I'll say, no problem that you don't want to go there yet. I'm going to tell you a story that I've experienced. And then they're like, oh, okay, she's willing to go there. then that might help them. It doesn't always. Sometimes it takes many, many conversations
Well,
to
that's
go there.
leadership. And I think it's also part of, you can't force someone
Exactly.
there when they're not ready. They might need time to go and reflect on it. And, that I think some of the, you're an engager style person who's more open and probably going to share quicker than someone who's more reflective like me, who's a bit more guarded. Reality is you just got to give it time.
Exactly.
And know how to to work with that. So
Mhm.
so Julie, just as we sort of wrap up here, and we think about your identity, which you've had a huge, I mean, I call myself a reformed accountant. I've gone from accountant to behavioral sciences, but you've gone from the hard edge of financial advice to the ultimate connection builder, communication success coach, guide. So how do you see your identity? I definitely think your ability in the way in which questions are asked
Mhm. Oh
is
yeah.
is something that's key to this. So how do you see your identity, and what, how you hold yourself out to everybody else now?
Um, the biggest word that I use is advocate. I
Right.
want, I didn't have an advocate for myself, and I think that would have helped a lot. Just somebody to talk to, again, a judgment-free zone, safe space, um, just somebody where they can come and they can vent if they need to, but that they know, okay, at a certain point after a few minutes, we're going to stop the venting and we're going to start collaborating about solutions. Okay, what are we going to do about it? Right. And then, as an advocate, it's my job to prop you up, make you feel confident and good about your solutions. And then with, the 25 years of experience in the financial industry, hey, maybe think about, these ideas too. Let's talk about these other things too. Um, but yeah, it's really making sure that the person feels extraordinarily confident. And if they're feeling unsure about something, they know that they can communicate with me and I will help them navigate whatever situation they're going through to get to the solution, and then figure out how to create the end result to that solution through steps, through conversations, through and how to handle that. So it's really been, especially the last few years, have been super powerful, and I'm very pleased to say very successful. The relationships and the advisory relationships that I have, eh, they're doing great, and that's, to me, that's the biggest compliment, is to see their success.
Well, and that's great, and there's a big smile on your face, and that means you're happy too,
Yes.
and you can just keep on doing more of that. So if I just so I understand and make and ensure everybody understands, really, you see yourself as an advocate, a trusted advocate for people to come and talk to, whether they're an advisor, a team member, a family member in one of the in one of these families,
Hmm.
can come and talk to you. But in a way, the outcome of that is that you're going to empower them to be their own advocate.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
that's really what's going to be a key to the solution, is because at the end of the day, they're going to have to communicate their message to their boss
Hmm.
or to a client, or one of the children is
Exactly.
going to have to communicate or advocate for themselves with their parent.
That's exactly right. Or the parent with the child.
So what do
It's
you see as stronger, that you are the trusted advocate for them to come to you, or the fact that you're building the advocacy within them?
So it starts with them coming to me, building
Yeah,
that trust, recognizing who they want to be as a confident, authentic person. Um, so that's where we start. And then we grow to them advocating for themselves, whether, again, it's with, management or team members or clients or
yeah.
prospects. or families. You know, it doesn't, that part, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It does matter, but that's the extension that we figure out based upon their goals. But you know, first and foremost, it's building the trust between that person and myself, and really drilling down into what they want to accomplish. You talked earlier about, you know, talents and passions being the X factor. So figuring out, okay, what is your X factor? And then, you know, where can we really help you completely grow and explode from that place?
Yeah. So unless people can come and have, you know, this trusted advocacy conversation with you,
Yes.
that nothing else is really ever going to happen.
Right.
It's got to start there. So that's the foundational pillar, I think, for
Agreed.
you.
And the good news is often it doesn't take that long. I mean,
No.
unless the person, like we were saying, if the person is really, if this is challenging for them and there's a lot of layers that we need to delve into, that's fine. But if they're pretty open and pretty ready to talk, we can be there after 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, really, which is great. And it's ever flowing, ever growing, ever connecting, ever changing. But it's just wonderful. And it stems into so many different areas in their business and everything. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think if they know that that's what they need, and
Yeah.
this is the struggle, then coming and spending an hour or two with you will change.
Yeah.
Everything, or change can come. It's perhaps the barrier will be when they don't know they need it. You know, when it's
Right.
the 62-year-old advisor that has got blind spots and think they can just talk to anybody, but really they're actually not succeeding at that.
Mm-hmm.
And the blind spots are there, and they haven't had any conversations with their own family members or really engage their staff. That will take perhaps longer, but they're the one that really needs
Yes.
you. But then it's also, as we talked about before, it needs the junior to sort of, in the right way,
Right.
explain to them where the problem is, and that their business is actually at long-term risk for this.
Absolutely.
You know, succession planning within the business, but also with the clients.
There was a statistic that I saw a couple weeks ago that said more than 80% of advisors are wanting the wealth transfer conversation to occur with their advisors, and fewer than 30% of advisors actually go there with their clients. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, man, if you're willing and wanting to be one of those advisors that do go there, such a huge opportunity for business. Just huge.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good place to end on, because I think that's where the wisdom is, that we've got to work on this other 70% of advisors that are not doing this, to go there every time, because this is where they're going to win the business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a lot easier than you might think. Hopefully.
That's a mindset.
That's so true.
That's a mind that's absolutely a mindset.
Yes.
Right, Julie,
Couldn't
this has been wonderful spending time with you. I think
Hugh.
so many great points have been unpacked here. There is so much for advisors to learn from this, and you are going to go and continue to go gangbusters.
Thank you, sir.
In breaking open the industry to be relational.
Well, that means so much. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh.